What's up, sports fans? It is your pal Jonah with his main man, RPF, and welcome to yet another episode of Sports, of course, with Jonah and RPF. Welcome to the show. We've got a great lineup for you today. We are going to discuss the PGA is back in action with a major this weekend, and the NBA kicked off its conference finals recently. The NHL is about to kick off their conference finals, as well as I'm absolutely certain that RPF is going to take us through some tennis. And you know what? We'll probably throw something in there about Aaron Rodgers at some point. So, so buckle up, strap in tight, and let's dive right into it. RPF. Actually, before we do that, RPF, I'd like to check in with you. How you doing?
I'm good this week. I mean, tonight, I'm still a little kind of victory dance hungover from the amazing Game 1 Celtics and Miami Heat game. So,
yep.
But I guess we'll start there. But yeah, it's a fun time for a sports fan. You know, just not a lot of sleep hours, but yeah, it's been good. It's been good.
You sound like a new parent. Like, hey, how's it going? Like, well, it's good. It's good.
Sometimes
it's not a lot of sleep, but it's.
Sometimes I gotta take Bam Adebayo and burp him on my shoulder, for sure. But yeah, I am definitely sleep deprived this past couple of weeks. But yeah, it's been a good ride.
All right, well, let's start right there with your Miami Heat and the NBA, and we'll dive in right there.
God, I'm sounding like a broken record, man. But Jimmy Buckets,
Jimmy
man.
Buckets,
effing Butler. I'm sure for all the Celtics fans, it's Jimmy effing Butler. No, but I'll tell you this. I mean, I think, and it's easy to get lost into into the weeds of the awesome technical skill and the shooting prowess and just the lion-sized heart he has to carry that team on his back. But this is a Miami Heat team that literally had, I said it again, 11 games out of the 82. They had the starting 5. They were number 8 seed. They lost the first play-in game. This was a team on its heels, wounded animals, and Jimmy Butler has never once, not one press conference from the entire season, including after game 1 of the play-in that they lost. He kept saying, "We got this."
Yeah,
we're like, okay. At some point, we got to kick in here, and sure enough, 3 minutes left into the second play-in game, we were down again, and Butler just said, "Okay, I got it." And from that moment on, it has been lights out, and it's been nothing short of historic to watch. An 8th seed team take down the NBA favorite, the Bucks, gone.
Yeah.
The dreaded Knicks that everyone said, oh, they're going to wipe the floor with the Heat, gone in 6. The Celtics, the mighty Celtics, once again, by the way, the 3rd time in 4 years that the Heat and Celtics played in the conference finals. Not a small feat to do. Wow. And in Boston, what do we do last night? The Heat are down by double digits. Butler's like, okay, I got it. Butler scores something like 38 points or something, takes his team on his back, and the Heat win by half a dozen points in Boston, taking away home court advantage from the mighty Celtics. If you're a Celtics fan, this is your MO. The Celtics have been an up and down team this whole playoff. They get blown out in game 1 against the Sixers in Boston, and Tatum says, "Okay, I'll score 51 in game 7 and just take us through." And that could very well happen. The talent on that team is tremendous. But I said it before last week, and I'll say it again: the Miami Heat are coached expertly by Spoelstra, whereas their Celtics, because of the whole snafu, not snafu, but the conflict they had in the beginning of the year, they have the youngest coach in basketball, could be outcoached here. So if it's a matter of coaching, I'll take the Heat. If it's a matter of big gamemanship, it's Tatum and Butler. Game on, So it's going to be thrilling. I believe it'll be 6 games in Miami. Game 6 in Miami will be the determinant factor, and I think Miami takes it this year. They're kind of on a revenge tour from last year when Jimmy missed the 3-pointer attempt to take the Heat to the finals. So against the Celtics.
Okay.
Thoughts?
All right.
And I have thoughts about the West. I just want to start with the East.
I mean, thoughts. You know me. I'm gonna be.
Wait. Are you still not paying attention to the basketball in the finals in the Eastern Conference?
No. You know me. I'm just gonna say, well, it's game 1, so Congrats, but let's
No,
let
I'm
this-
not. I'm not. I'm not.
let it
I'm
shake
not.
out a
Listen,
little bit.
let me be clear. I'm not congratulating ours. I'm saying, but it's been at some point the acknowledgement has to kick in that this is a run that's not expected. It hasn't been in a quarter century that the eighth seed has been in the final. It's not expected that Butler, with a lame ankle, still that he rolled terribly in Game 1 of the Knicks series, is still taking this team on his back. Now, of course, there's other performers. Bam played great, Adebayo, and there's Strus, and even Kevin Lowry are like throwing these 3-pointers finally. But remember, and we still don't have last year's best 6-man MVP, Tyler Hero, still out with a broken hand. So he's a starter, obviously. So this is like a huge, like Jimmy Butler on team on my back. Let's go. So anyway, I'm just trying to make sure that that's it's still Game 1. Obviously, it's going to be fun to watch, but it's going to be by next week's podcast. We could be like, wow, or we could be like, the Celtics came back and won 3 games in a row. So.
Speaking of Game 1s, there was another Game 1 the night before, and that was the Lakers and Nuggets. And I'm just looking at the score, and my question is,
did you see the game?
Do either teams play defense?
Well, that's yeah. This is almost like actually it's funny you said that. I was thinking about this as
Is two times I was shootout, like
2 times I was thinking about this. Of course, I'm a football first person, so I was thinking about this. It could be what the NFL had in mind, putting the Chiefs and the Lions in Game 1 of the NFL schedule, because it's like
just going to be like
I'm getting whiplash from the there's no like
71 to 68.
right in football it was almost that score at halftime for the NBA. But I think in that series it's Lakers, right? So anything to do with again, unexpected team to do well, because in fact LeBron just said, okay, I'm getting older now. This is do or die time. So, and when LeBron gets some steam, some wind behind him, and it's imposing to watch, particularly to play against, I'm sure. But I think, it's a selfish fan, basketball fan or a sports fan to watch. Look, even if the Celtics beat the Heat and it becomes Lakers and Celtics, I mean, you can't really fault that matchup historically. I mean, that's like that would be like mind blowing for everyone involved. I mean, and then, but also if the Heat do win, LeBron against the Heat, that kind of that type of push and pull with the mind, which I think will be really interesting to watch as well, obviously. But there's no scenario that Denver Nuggets excites anyone. I mean, so let's start there. I mean, I'll say maybe. I mean, like Nikola Jokic's parents would be like thrilled to be able to go to South Beach or something. But beyond that, I can't imagine anybody, literally anybody, outside of a Colorado Rocky fan to be excited that the Nuggets are playing anybody. So I think I speak for all of basketball to implore LeBron to please do everything possible to avoid the fate of a Denver Nuggets team in the final. But it is impressive. I mean, by the way, Game 1 of that series, did you see it? The last 10 minutes of that was kind of just like
I missed that one.
That was fun basketball. Again, like you said, there's no defense. I was saying the second time that I invoked football in my brain was when towards the end of the fourth quarter of the Heat and Celtics game, excuse me, I think it's not Marv Albert, but his son, whomever is the commentator for TNT basketball. Mm-hmm. It's one of the Alberts. There's so many of them. Which one was stuck? Anyway, he kept saying earlier in the game, he said that he invoked like that the pass from Kevin Love was like a Tua pass. I'm like, what? Okay. And then later in the fourth quarter, when Jimmy Butler had 6 steals, by the way, a new all-time high for himself, 6 steals in the game, 3 of them came within 5 minutes of each other. In the fourth quarter, he just kept picking the ball off. Like he said, this reminds me of the secondary, the Dolphins. I'm like, what? It's like me too. Wait. Anyway, so the point is that football is always infused in my thinking, anyways, and probably yours. But I think the idea is that the Heat seem to be playing a well-rounded game, whereas the Lakers and Nuggets are just playing offense, like crazy and good. So, but there's a strong or balanced defense with a strong offense defeat a lights out offense and no defense. That's always been the question for all team sports. So
Right, right. And speaking of Heat moving on since our last episode, they're I don't know if they're crosstown or what, but their counterparts, the Panthers, have also pulled off their run in the playoffs and are on to the conference finals as well. I bring this up because part of I'm getting to the point where part of who I start rooting for is kind of like, I'd love to see the Panthers and the Heat, mainly because hockey and basketball are kind of the only two sports really that I can think of where the playoffs are like side by side. And
Mm-hmm.
so, the thought of being a Miami fan, living in Miami and potentially being able to go to an NBA final game and a Stanley Cup final game, like within maybe even hours of each other, if not a day. But
You mean me in 10 days when I fly down to Miami and call all my friends? Hello, Gloria Stefan. I need tickets for it's like, yeah. Hello, Mayor of Miami. Remember me? Yes. Yeah, it's too much to hope for. So I'm trying not to jump the gun here. But
yeah, sure.
But I will say this: they're on a similar trajectory, the Heat and the Panthers. The Panthers, as I mentioned, last year they were the best regular season team as far as points and schedule. I mean, and record, and they were expected easily to at least get to the conference finals, and they got upset by the rival in Tampa. So this year they're just taking it a game at a time, and again overachieving as a lower seed, overachieving, and now but they went into Toronto Maple Leafs. They were up 3-1, and I thought for sure. I even said last week that they'll lose that game and then come back to Miami and possibly win it.
Yeah.
They said no.
Nope.
Hold my frozen beer. They were not they were down 2-0, and they came back.
Hold my Molson.
Yeah, exactly. Hold my curling broom. Anyway, so sure enough, they came back in a thrilling, for no one in the arena, but for me, thrilling overtime win. They put away the Maple Leafs, and that's a whole different story. The tragedy of. And by the way, all four teams are like, this is like the suntan conference finals for hockey. I mean, this is like every team. I mean, for Carolina to be the northernmost team, it's a very, very distressing for a lot of hockey fans. Where in the Canadian drought continues. There hasn't been a Canadian champion in the Stanley Cup, I think, since last century. Isn't that insane?
That is,
I mean, you would think
insane.
It's right. It's like, first of all, does Canada need more teams? First of all, because it's international. Are there more cities in Canada that could happen? Could it be like Saskatchewan and I don't know, Halifax or something? We need more teams from Canada because it's really not fair. I mean, why is there a team from like Dallas in the finals? A team like from Calgary?
Well, Dallas, because Dallas, they were originally from
Canada.
Winnipeg?
Yeah,
I forget.
Maybe it's one of those places. Yeah,
exactly. we stole one of their teams. And so.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, yeah. So anyway, so the point is that it's going to be surprising. The finals are starting tonight. The conference finals, and the Panthers play at the Hurricanes in Carolina, as I mentioned, and then tomorrow night is Vegas against Dallas. And the Golden Knights, I saw that game. I'm sorry, I saw the Stars and Kraken, the deciding Game 7, and that was, I think, I don't know. This is what I'm thinking. First of all, I was hoping for the Kraken because how could you not?
Right.
I mean,
exactly. I know. We spoke about this at length the last couple of episodes.
Yeah, exactly. I was waiting for you to come in your Kraken outfit, and it didn't quite work out. But I will say this: I think the Panthers are on again, like the Heat. They're on a revenge tour. I think they're just going to take it, and again, well coached and disciplined, and just with playing without penalties and just playing. I mean, I was usually like wait for the icing call to go to the bathroom. And it was like, I was like, hello, I've been 15 minutes waiting for an icing call. It's like, come on, Panthers, do something bad, But anyway, they're very disciplined and very well coached, seemingly very well trained. And so I think the Panthers will take it in 6 again. And I think the Golden Knights in Vegas have the momentum, only eking out the victory, maybe in 7 games, because I think Dallas had to overextend themselves more than they thought they had to with the Kraken. I think they may be a little fatigued, a little bit kind of like, not even fatigued, but mentally kind of just like, okay, why did this take so long to do this? So I think that little advantage in the first couple of games, I think the Golden Knights are like the kind of like the puppy that doesn't stop, type of thing. And they're still like in year 6, they've gotten to the conference finals 4 years. I mean, it's crazy, the success. So I call it, I think you're right. I think it's going to be, to go back to the Heat, Heat and Lakers, right? Fingers crossed that the Nuggets come back to earth and realize they're from Denver. Secondly, and I think, and I hope that
it'd be a lot quicker return to earth because Denver is so high.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. They're still a little. They inhale just too much, mountain air, and they kind of, go back to the bar and have a Coors Light or something.
The descent back to Earth is
exactly.
about 5,000 feet quicker than it would be.
Like mountain air, get me out of here, And then I think the Panthers in Vegas, would be a really fun series. And then so both, like you said, side by side, both Miami teams or both South Florida teams would be in the finals of the. Can you imagine if they both win? The celebrations would be like, a lot of, I think, unfortunately, a lot of arrests in South Beach. Anyway, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. I think the Heat and the Panthers would be in the finals. I don't know if they're going to win, but I think they'll get to the finals.
Yeah. As far as hockey goes, listen, the Panthers are they're that team that you're scared to play just because they're not supposed to be good, but they are, and you just don't know. You're going into the games I don't really know. How are we supposed to play these guys? They're beating everyone. Whereas on the flip side of that is the Knights. I think of a team and they're good, and they're but they don't scare you because you already know they're good. So going into it, you're like, okay, we got to play purple. We got to do this. The Panthers are just the unknown, right? You're always kind of.
Well, the Panthers are trying to get respect. The Knights in 6 years have gotten that respect because they actually earned it. They've had 4 years, but the Panthers are wait, why are people sleeping? We were 2-time finalists. We had the best record last year, and we're still kind of this team that people don't even pay attention to. Let's see if they pay attention to us now. So that's sure. The idea, I think. Yeah.
Out of the West there, I think I see. I agree with you. I think maybe the Stars kind of emotionally and mentally got beat up that past round, and physically, I'm sure. Going through 7 games. And on the flip side of that, I think the Knights, taking down Edmonton and the best player in the NHL. I think the Knights are kind of riding the high. The Stars are kind of hey, we got through, but barely.
These are the no-name playoffs. The top players aren't involved anymore, and so it's a very interesting.
I see the Knights. I see the Knights going on from that one. I think I don't want to say handedly. I don't think it's a sweep, but I don't think they're going to have a lot of problems. And then, man, I think I see the Panthers. I really do. There's something about them that you can't bring yourself to say, I think they're going to lose. At this point, right? At this point, they, when they went up, in round 1, you're like, I think they're going to lose. And then they don't. And then, and then they play the Maple Leafs. You're like, I think they're going to lose. And then they don't. So it's no longer, it's I can't bring myself to say that. So,
by the way, I have never, that's not me talking. That's you talking and the other experts and the NHL experts talking. I've always said heart beats skill, and the heart and the kind of that inner pilot light that turns on when you're not being respected or not being considered. Yeah. That's why we'll talk about that idea later on when we talk about tennis as well. But before we get off too far off the NBA topic, which I know they're kind of parallel for us, the NBA and the NHL playoffs.
Yep.
Did you see the sweepstakes for the hottest prospect in the NBA draft since LeBron?
No.
Okay. This guy, I'm sure I'll mispronounce his name, but his name is Victor Wembanyama. Wembanyama. He's French, or French speaking, or French. He is, I believe, 17 years old. I believe he's 7'4". I believe, apparently, he plays like a combination of Shaquille O'Neal and Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. Okay, if you believe the hype. Everyone's gone insane for this prospect. They did, the NBA does the most maddening thing ever. They do hey, you have 42% chance of getting number 1 pick, and they do this.
Yeah.
So wait for it.
Advanced calculus.
So basically, the team that needs him the least has gotten him in the sweepstakes. Not the least. The least would be someone like Denver Nuggets. No, it was actually. But interestingly, Greg Popovich got him in San Antonio. So, on top of that, he's not. Well, he's damned for sponsorships deal because in San Antonio. He's not in LA or Miami or New York.
Right.
Secondly, but he's going to be coached by arguably one of the greatest coaches of all time. Not arguably, one of the greatest coaches of all time.
Yep.
So he better brush up on his single word translation app, because bad, good, bad. Popovich style.
Maybe that's exactly what he needs, right? It's gonna
maybe like a puppy training guide or something. But this guy, Victor Wembanyama, I have a feeling we're going to pronounce his name correctly in about a minute when we see him play. But anyway, I just want to make sure that he's on our radar early in the annals of sports, of course, history. We can say back in season 3, episode 6, RPF said Victor Wembanyama was going to be I saw one clip of him on YouTube. I went, this kid is not a kid. This is like, oh my God. He has to fill out.
You said he's 17. Is he like, and he's obviously 7'4". Is he like a beanpole? Like, is he?
He's not going to be anytime soon going down the bobsled in the Olympics. I mean, he's literally, I mean, I don't know. I mean, beanpole, he seems medium sized, but he doesn't, he needs to pack on some Charles Barkley type muscle in order to, bang up against these.
He wasn't in the comparison.
No, sorry, but Shaquille muscle. Well, Shaquille still has muscle left. Do you think Shaquille has some muscle tone left over from muscle memory from back in the 90s? Yeah. No, I just think that anyway, I wanted you to be aware of his presence, because he's going to be a big deal after the finals. It's going to be like all eyes on Victor, and sure enough, all eyes on Nike and whomever's going to make him the next LeBron sponsorship type of MJ. Anyway, so buzz is heavy for that, but I'm actually kind of happy that Popovich has him to kind of get his head straight before he gets too fabulous. All right, I just wanted to point that out before we got too far off track.
Hey, RPF.
Yes.
Do you know what else we have going on this weekend that doesn't happen very often?
I do, but only happens 4 times a year.
There's
your wife makes you dinner.
There's a PGA Major going on.
Yes.
And we're going to.
Do you know where it is?
It is in Rochester, New York, and
Oak Hill. You remember Oak Hill?
Say,
Oak Hill is very special. Of course, I'll talk about it in a second. Go ahead.
I gotta say, I saw a couple of comments from Rory, and I kind of have to agree with him.
First of all, it's amazing that you and Rory are on first name basis, which is awesome.
Well, yeah, we go back. What can I say? Essentially, the PGA Championship used to be later in the year. It got moved to May. According to skeptics, it just has to do with ratings and whatnot. Anyway,
well, they want the Masters hangover to come spill over to them.
Yeah, sure. But the issue is now that it was literally below freezing in.
Look what I'm wearing
today.
We're both wearing. People. By the way, all our millions of fans who are like in the Sun Belt. I mean, they're like, why are they still wearing hoodies? It's almost Memorial Day. What is happening in this? Kids, climate change is real. I'm just telling you right now because.
So I honestly, I have my hoodie. I have a hoodie on right now because my house is absolutely freezing because I shut the heat off because we had a heat wave like a week ago.
My house is in conflict. We had the AC going and the heat going at the same time. We're like, which one are we?
Right, your house is just gonna explode because it's like
no. They're like, okay, all right, dude, get it together. What is happening here?
Yeah,
pick one.
But no, and he made some comments about how with it in May, it's because they got to take this into consideration. Like this is it's awful. It's a major, and you got people out there with like winter gloves and hats on, and by moving it to May, like you start to limit where you can put certain tournaments. You know what I mean? So a major tournament, if it's going to be in May, for the rest of eternity.
Hello, Doral, right? It's going to be
it makes it very hard for these northern states to bid for to have a major.
Yeah.
And so it's a bummer.
But okay. let's get past that. Okay, it's a done deal. Look, if no one complained about Qatar being the location for FIFA, I mean, for the World Cup, I mean, then and these people put people to death for other things. Yeah, it is. It does? It's a factor. I think sports and weather. I don't know. I kind of hate the Super Bowl always being indoors, also in the dome. I think why not have a game in MetLife Stadium and have some elements. I don't know. I kind of like that's part of sports.
Well, also think about this. Think about it from a fan perspective. Do you want to go stand in 35-degree weather and watch golf?
Well, let's talk about that for a second. I have never, and I will never be convinced, and I love sports more than anybody, well, in my house, but I love sports a lot. I've gone to every kind of sport. I've been lucky enough to be in the front line, everything. I've been in baseball, football, hockey, basketball for sure, tennis, to the point where I'm like, I've traveled the world watching sports live. The idea of standing up for 5 hours in a patch of grass, watching a ball fly by me, not knowing where it landed, and just having a communal feeling of where's the bathroom, I don't understand the joy of that. I never understood people who watch golf live because I want to see the replay. I want to see the trajectory. I want to see the hush conversations. For me anyway, that's my point. Tennis, you're sitting there in a fixed spot. People are back and forth. Your neck gets to work out, but you don't, you know what's happening behind you or in front of you. It's a very different experience for me as a fan. So that's my point of view. I know it's not popular. I think people could dream of standing on the 11th tee of the Masters for their whole life. I get it,
but so I don't. Never been. But you've never been.
I've been to two. No. I've been to 2 golf tournaments. One because we were one of the my company I worked for was one of the sponsors, and we were there. And then more of a pro-am, so it was more casual. But then I did go to, I think it was the TC. What was it? Something. It's a TC Championship or something. It was like a PGA event, and it was just like, I don't understand. I just didn't understand why I was there. But anyway, tell me your point of view if you've been and you love it.
So my experience was the exact opposite. Before I had been to an event, I was like, why would you ever go to a PGA Tour event? It seems like the most boring thing ever. And then we were in spring training one year, and it was the I think now it's the Valspar. That's the one. It's right outside of Tampa. There's a tournament every February or March or whatever. It's right outside of Tampa, and one of my teammates happened to be living for spring training. Happened to be staying like in the complex of where this was. So he's like, "Hey, man, just come park at my the apartment that I'm renting, and we can go to this thing." So, long story short, it was basically a free entry into a PGA event. I had never been. I had very low expectations, so I was like, "Yeah, I guess I can't knock it until I try it." And I went, and I was like, "OMG, this is some of the most fun I've had in a long time," because it's so casual. So I didn't. So and here's what I'm getting at, where I was asking you if you've ever been. I didn't stand in one spot. I grabbed a beer. I grabbed a beer from the bar. And
wait, shocker.
And I walked around the grounds, and you just stroll around, and you stop, and you watch this person tee off, and then you hear whispers like, oh, so and so's over on this hole right over here, and you go, okay, let's go check it out. And it's not unlike any other sport. I was not locked into one place. I was not in a seat and just sitting there, and everyone around me. You have this sort of this different experience of being able to roam the grounds.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're like at the last round of a major tournament, it might be a little bit different because there's going to be some, it's going to be shoulder to shoulder on some holes. But I absolutely loved it.
Well, here's the thing: the one tournament I didn't mention that was kind of the pro-am one was actually not actually a pro-am, but it was the Liberty National Golf Club, and about that one. It's the one that's in Jersey, or halfway between Jersey and New York City, that has the spectacular views of the Statue of Liberty, and it has the skyline of New York City as a backdrop for. It's the Hudson River that's all around you for all the water shots. So it was. I mean, there's worse places to be. I wasn't stuck in some sort of like Sherwood, Arkansas, golf course, like looking at like tumbleweed or something. No offense to our millions of fans in Sherwood. I don't know if that's even a city in Arkansas, but anyway, the point is that I was sitting there on the 16th,
I believe.
Okay, right on the 16th tee with the view of Manhattan. Lower Manhattan and the Statue of Liberty in front of me. So it wasn't like torture. It was actually a beautiful day, and it was summer day. So all of that works in its favor for me. But as far as experiences in sports, to me, it doesn't beat going into the Rose Bowl for a football game, or Fenway Park for a baseball game, or Wimbledon for tennis, or these are iconic moments.
But here's the thing: is
maybe the Masters is that for people.
I don't think it's supposed to beat them. I think it's I think it's apples to oranges. I don't, you know what I mean? Like it's football is an amazing experience because it's like, I mean, it's you go and you tailgate and it's like the energy is.
And we talked about hockey live is a whole different experience. It's amazing live,
Right.
Yeah.
So I just it's a different experience. So I
That's
don't know
true. No, it's definitely different. Yeah.
I don't know that I don't know that I can fairly compare it to. I can't just say, oh well, I had more fun at.
Yeah, I'm not going to be chasing down. I'm not going to be running after different players. But that's you. That's great. From you, by the way, you also have that experience with, like, even when you watch horse racing, you like make that a full contact sport somehow. You definitely have this whole different experience type of. I
try to keep up with them on the sideline.
You see, you like your forelegs behind. And he's like he's running. No, but it's true because you have a whole very kind of like interactive type of feeling about the you're very not into passivity when you're watching sports. You like to have some sort of
this is true. This is true.
So,
this is very
but
true.
to me, watching golf is the equivalent of having to stand at the Macy's Day Parade and watching balloons go by me. I'd rather do anything else in my life. Yet I don't mind it watching that on TV, which is
But here is the thing that we talked about last year when this was all starting to shake out, is that and if I remember correctly, I think you agreed with me last year, is that love him or hate him, Live Golf is really changing this.
Well, I want to talk about that in a second. Yeah.
Okay. Well, they're at least making a very concerted effort to change that, and it's becoming a much more of a quote unquote football game or a baseball game. Like, hey,
I'm gonna have to go to a event. I'm gonna have to go to a live tournament. Don't tell the PGA. But I think PGA is like paying attention, going, what?
Of course they are. Have you seen all the purses in the PGA? All the prize money. I was just looking today.
They're like,
the tournament this weekend is $15 million.
Incredible. Yeah. And that's usually like in Mexico, in pesos. It's kind of all different. You get to buy like a cup of coffee and a churro or something. Yeah. But yes, I will tell you this. Well, let's talk about the tournament itself, the PGA Championship. The reality is it's there. It's in Rochester, by the way, which is not that far from where, the Sports of Course boys are, which is kind of interesting. But I will tell you this. The course itself, I don't know if you remember this. I remember Oak Hill back whenever it was played there before. It was like these huge like fairways, long tee shots, long fairway. I mean, it rewards Tiger Woods type people, like the muscle. People who have who can hit, drive. It's not the greens to me in the short game is almost incidental. So therefore, I think randomly and not shockingly, the Spanish superstar John Ram, who just won the Masters in a thrilling last round, is favored. I think because I think that's what he does. He just knocks the hell out of the ball, and I think he has the mental, obviously acuity to kind of become a back-to-back match, Grand Slam champion, a major champion. So then we have Liv. Brooks, is he going to collapse again? Or is this really the tournament that because he also can, obviously look at his biceps, he could knock the ball around, or this Patrick Reed's tournament to win, for Liv. I know, and no one. Patrick Reed is the Denver Nuggets of golf players. I understand. No one wants Patrick Reed to win anything. I get it, but he's still in the conversation. But Scheffler, Justin Thomas, the defending champ, Phil Mickelson. Take his walker out of the closet and he's whacking the ball. I mean, Mickelson. I mean, isn't he like 100, 102 years old? The point is, but they're all still in the conversation. So it makes it interesting to me that this PGA, given the weather, given the how hard you have to smack the ball around, and how it rewards mistakes kind of on the putting green because you can hit the ball so long, or you have to hit the ball so long. I think it's going to be John Ram and Scheffler at the end. Or Kupka, Anyways, that's just my early picks.
What about Rory?
He's always a wild card. He's always he can become. It's 4 rounds. Can he do the Rory things for 4 rounds? I mean, I don't know. I
bring this up because he just seems so mentally defeated. Like the last,
he's like Sergio Garcia. Do you remember him?
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, Garcia was always this protege. It's going to be like the next Johnny Miller and and
Yeah.
he had real moments of real brilliance, and then he would just collapse in a couple holes, and he would either bounce back or not. That's to me a little bit like Rory's in this place. Like stop
Yeah.
the noise in your head and just play how you play, and
Yeah.
that's harder, easier to do to say than
Right.
to do.
Yeah.
But he's always in the mix. I mean, to me, it's like, how could you not put Rory in the mix? Tiger on one leg is still in the mix until he's not, right? So, um, I mean, I would love to see him in the mix. Kidding. And the last, like on the weekend, to have him still hunting around and having Rory be like on camera going,
Yeah.
oh my god, because he could hit the ball.
I would love to see Mickelson in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone over 40 would be interested in seeing that.
Well, I think he's become such a character. It's just like,
what happens to Liv if one of those boys win?
Yeah.
PGA, wake up, PGA.
Yeah. Well, I think I remember seeing earlier in the season. I think it was actually 10 weeks into the PGA season, because it was a graphic, and I don't know if the person put this together, if it was piece from other source, curated from other sources, but it was a graphic of the top 10 money earners on the PGA from last year, and how much money they've made so far within 10 weeks of this year.
Yeah, all Live people.
No. It was all PGA people.
Oh, interesting.
But the point is that because now the PGA is paying all of their all the purses have gone through the roof, because they're like, oh shit, like everyone's leaving to go to Live because the money's there. So
yeah,
but my point is that it was like astronomical. Like one of the players, I think it was I don't even want to guess because I'll get it wrong. But one of the players earned like a total of 10 million last year, and was at like 11 million through 10 weeks this year. And I don't want to get in trouble, but I think it was Phil Mickelson who basically tweeted, "You're welcome."
Wow.
Of something along those lines, meaning like,
talk about a Bravo podcast. This is exactly what they do. This is called shade in Bravo land.
And I don't mean like I don't know that he literally said "you're welcome," but he basically, whatever he said was saying, this is what we were trying to do. We were trying to basically punch the PGA in the face and say, "Hey, wake up, because you're treating us like shit."
Yeah, I just wish it wasn't at the hands at the behest of
the PGA
of that
was a
regime
monopoly
in Saudi Arabia, But yeah, I totally agree with that. I totally agree with. I mean, obviously, PGA had to wake up, and they did. Yeah,
and they did, right? And so, yeah. Anyway, that came to mind.
That's a interesting. I didn't see that actually. I don't know how I missed that. That's interesting.
Well, I mean,
I guess when the lawsuit comes,
you're just I'm a little more in the loop than you are. So
yeah. Sorry, that was the first thing you said. That's really funny, by the way, today. That was genuinely funny. Yeah, because okay, that's fine. So PGA, it starts today. So look for cold weather and long drives. And even, by the way, even the second shots on the first shot off in the fairway, you have to hit the ball long. So it's long irons and drivers everywhere all day. So if people can stay in the fairway, they have a huge chance of winning. So that's going to be the thing, So
yeah, all right,
okay. Then we go. Of course, we're going to put the bow on this with my weekly tennis.
Put a bow on it.
Okay, so again, as I've been mentioning, this is a season for tennis and for clay court season, and the big X factor, which hasn't been this case for the past decade and a half. Rafa Nadal, as you know, has been storming all these tournaments, and he walks into Roland Garros, which is French Open, with a head of steam, 2 or 3 or 4 victories leading up to it, and he's the favorite. And he, it's shocking if he loses 2 sets out of 7 matches, which is the best of 5 sets each. So you do the math. He usually just storms in, and he's won 14 times. I'll say it again. 14-time champion at Roland Garros. In the history of mankind in sports, no one's ever done anything quite like that in any type of championship. Imagine if Tiger would win the Masters 14 times, just the Masters. So that's basically what he's done for French Open. So this year, as I've been saying, there's the other factors are Alcaraz, which is his compatriot from compatriot from Spain who's 20 years old. He's a phenom. He just lost early, shockingly, to some person I've never heard of, early in Rome, which is the tournament before the French Open. Alcaraz has been playing lights out. He's won a couple tournaments. So you can forgive him for that type of hiccup. In some ways, it's almost better to rest for a few days before French Open. Okay. Djokovic lost early as well, which was like completely, he was expected to kind of steamroll the whole field and win Rome, and he lost as well. So now the forgotten people, Medvedev and Tsitsipas, are now in the mix. The point is that if Rafa Nadal is healthy enough to play Roland Garros, if he's healthy and rested, he hasn't played since the U.S. It's since March. If he is healthy enough to play, he didn't play in March. He played back in Australia, so he's really rested. If he's healthy, it's going to be could be a Nadal beautiful tournament. If he's not playing or playing injured, it is the single widest open field in a decade and a half, because even before Rafa, there was Roger was winning, and Djokovic is always in the mix. If Rafa doesn't win, it's either Roger or Djokovic who win, which is...
Yep.
And Rafa doesn't win, by the way, just to be clear, only if he's not playing, because he literally does not lose. He's lost twice in 110 matches. Right. So Rafa plays. It's going to be really fun to watch Rafa do Rafa things. If he doesn't play, both men and women, by the way, because Swiatek just lost last night in Rome early. So all these people that are supposed to be unbeatable or a kind of a sure thing, this French Open is looking like it's the most wide open. Also, the fact we've mentioned, Rafa is not in the top 2 seeds. Right now he's number 14 in the world. So if he's number 14 seed, it would be the single funniest thing. If he's rested and hungry and ready with the Eye of the Tiger theme in his head, and all of a sudden he's the 14th seed, I mean, the collective fear in everyone's eyes would be like, please God, if there's a God, do not put me in the same quarter as Rafa Nadal at Roland Garros. So the bottom line is that I'm predicting, if let's start with the women, which are, admittedly a little bit more settled, but I think Coco Gauff had not been talked about at all. She's the American former phenom. She's now, a young woman who's playing well. She's top 7 in the world now, but she hasn't broken through really. She got to the final of the French last year. No one talked about it because Swiatek was steamrolling everybody, including her, in the finals. But Swiatek is not unbeatable, and Coco Gauff is ambitious and smart and well-trained. And so I have a feeling no one's talking about her at all. Like in any conversation, top 6 people, the odds makers and the bookies are not even talking about her. I have a feeling, and by the way, it's really disrespectful for the former finalist from last year not to even talked about, but she's not being talked about. I have a feeling she's going to break through, and in the women, and win Roland Garros, which would be amazing for women's tennis as a true heir to the Serena segue and the Venus type of segue. And Rafa, as always, I would love him to win. If he doesn't, obviously I would like Alcaraz. But if he doesn't, and these people, if the whole French Open is open, it's really open, then it could be some amazing tennis. And the opportunity of a lifetime for some clay quarters who will never get through because of Rafa's dominance. So it should be a very, very, very interesting Roland Garros.
Okay. And there you have it. There it is. There is the bow. There is the tennis bow on our...
I just knocked it back. Ah! The bow got aggressive. Anyway. I don't tie a lot of bows, just to full disclosure. So
there's the tennis bow on our Sports, of course, episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. We had a blast. We will see you next time. You can listen to us everywhere you listen to your podcasts, over on Apple, Spotify, Podbean, as well as all the other platforms. We're also socially found on Instagram and Twitter, and, of course, our own dedicated YouTube channel at Sports, of course, with Jonah and RPF. Just type that into any of the search bars on those platforms and we'll pop right up, and you can view us, listen to us, comment, subscribe, like. Am I forgetting anything?
Watch baseball, watch basketball, watch hockey, watch PGA, and get outside every so often for some fresh air.
Right. Also live. So,
right.
All right. Thank you so much, RPF. I will see you next time.
See you next time.